We are with Counselors for Computing, which is a group that is within the NCWIT K-12 Alliance. And NCWIT is the National Center for Women in Information Technology. So just a little bit about myself. I am Jane Mason. I am from Bloomington, Indiana. I work as the program director of CS for Indiana, and I also work at IU Bloomington within the libraries. And then Bobby Jo is presenting with me if she wants to introduce herself.
I was muted. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, no, you're good.
Anyways, hi guys, my name is Bobby Jo Wathen. I am a school counselor at Middletown High School in Connecticut, also a PhD student at UConn in the counselor education program. I've been with NCWIT for the last, I was counting the years the other day, it's already been 5 years. So I'm really passionate about this area and helping counselors understand the opportunities for our students. And so we'll get into all of that today.
Yeah. I'll briefly talk about who Counselors for Computing is and what our mission really is. So our mission is to provide counselors with information and resources that they can use to support all students as they explore computer science education and careers. So how we do that is really focusing on professional development and then also giving out free resources, which we will talk about at the end, emphasis on free, for counselors or anyone that's really in an advising role. And then some other things that we do is really outreach, activism for change for computer science. So we are critical partners within the CS for All movement, and we really recognize that our counselors are allies for computer science education and careers, and we really focus on not only giving counselors those free resources, but also trying to spread the word that counselors are allies for educators and everyone in the education world. So just
so real briefly, what is computer science? Computer science is essentially solving a problem using a computer, right? And so we can code and program computers to communicate, to solve other problems, to design and imagine things that are new and different. Computers are also used, obviously, to share and store, retrieve, manipulate, all of these things, and secure information. And that's a really big topic right now. But it's very simple. Think about computer science and coding as another language that we all need to learn to really be competitive in the workforce. I love this picture on here. You're probably wondering, what is this? Who is this woman, with a painting in front of her? She's actually, she restores paintings, and that big computer in front of her, she uses to scan the image to match the paint that needs to be restored exactly, right? And so instead of, old school going back and forth, trial and error, she can use the computer system to get that perfect match. So I always think that's pretty cool. All devices. All right. I think I did this right, Jane. So before
I can share.
Before we watch this video, I want you guys to think of it from two different perspectives. First, what is innovative to you? And then what do you think your students would think is innovative? So we'll just go ahead and watch the video.
I'll have to share it, Bobby Jo.
Okay.
19th century.
It was a good try, Jane.
I think 19th century was about the Industrial Revolution, about electricity, about disrupting the agricultural society and making it more advanced. The 20th century was about physics and engineering to do more things easier in our everyday life, from refrigerators to washing machines.
How convenient.
And the 21st century is definitely the digital age. It's the internet.
even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball, or build a house, all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
The lettuce bot is a robot that can sense its environment. Every single hour, this lettuce bot is seeing 1.5 million plants, and it's taking individual action on those plants. We enable lettuce growers to have higher yields in their field by helping make it cheaper, by helping produce food in a more sustainable way. And that wasn't previously possible without computer science and technology.
I have a really fun job where we build Polyvore, which kind of combines all my favorite things, so programming as well as fashion and art and design and shopping. Half the products you use these days are software products that you play with on maybe your phone. And so if you want to build something cool, you need to know programming, right? And there's so many things that you can do with computer science. So if you just work backwards from the cool thing that you want to build and figure out what that is, a lot of times computer programming is part of that, right? So you should learn the skill.
It's really exciting right now. The technology that we're developing right now is going to be used by your doctor in the next decade. When you come into the office and you're sick, the doctor is going to be like, all right, spit in this cup. And I will put it into this magic machine, which is a sequencer. And in an hour, I can tell you what you have or what's wrong with you. So if we're looking for a new virus, for example, we'll download a database of all the viruses that are known, and we'll search for, our sequence of interest against a whole database of all viruses. So you still need somebody to analyze the data. The computer is not smart enough yet.
Our software helps people save energy and thereby reduce their carbon emissions. To date, we've saved over 8 terawatt hours, which is the equivalent of about 1.1 million cars on the road.
When you're forecasting the wind, there's so many different parameters that go into it. It would be impossible for a human to sit down and do all those calculations. We need a computer model in order to forecast it.
I write software which scans images. We're looking for bad images that we know are illegal. I work very closely with organizations like the National Center for Missing Children. I know that the work that we've done has impacted the life of people. And I feel very strongly about it because there's a lot of social problems right now that could really leverage the use of technology. It's a lot about empowering the people who are there helping the world by giving them the tools to be able to do better. That's something that we can do right now, and the tools available are huge.
The merging of art and technology is getting more and more significant now. Because computers and software are such an integral part of our lives day to day, people are realizing that it can be quite creative to take this medium of computers and create incredible works of art.
In Finding Nemo, when Crush and Squirt and all the friends are flying through the East Australian Current, you're seeing images of water flowing by, you're seeing the colors on the back of the turtle, you're seeing the sides of the fish. All of those things are generated through math and computer programs that we write, that we then give to the artists, and they take that to create that final image and tweak it and make it look beautiful and look fun.
The crux of it is really about invention. It's about looking at the world and being dissatisfied with things and questioning everything.
I always felt like if I didn't learn how to program, it would be like not learning how to read. The future would just be closed to me.
If you're in the coding profession, there's so many things that you can do, and you can pretty much pick and choose the course you want to be in.
I think that you can start something in your college dorm room, and you can have a set of people who haven't built a big company before come together and build something that 1 billion people use as part of their daily lives is just crazy to think about, right? It's humbling and it's amazing.
Really, it's about the chance to reinvent things and then see it out there in the world and see people using it and having fun or having a better life because of something that wasn't there before that you put in the world.
All right, so for those of you who are on Nearpod, you'll have the opportunity to answer our 2 questions I asked you to think about before. So the first one is, what is one thing that you thought was innovative in the video?
Yeah, and for those of you that haven't joined Nearpod yet, Bobby Joe did post the link in the chat to join. So you can click on that and join as your name, and then you can participate in our questions and our little pop quizzes, and yeah.
So while you guys are doing that, I'll tell you a quick little story. This Nearpod is, new to Jane and I, and I used it on Friday with some of my students because I'm trying to solve some of their problems in the district, and like, how can I do some outreach? And the kids loved it. They said it was way better than just talking at them, and they felt like it was easier to participate because they didn't have to unmute themselves and be interrupted by someone else, and that like moment of like anxiety of like, oh God, I'm about to talk online. So you guys had some great stuff. One thing that stood out to Stephen, a new way of thinking about old problems. Yeah, absolutely. I like this one, farming technology. That the first time I watched that video, that really stood out to me. I was like, wow, I think of farmers like my dad, who has his garden in the backyard and doesn't know how to work his flip phone. I love this, everything. What I think you guys are noticing already is this is really interdisciplinary, right? Everything from our doctor's office to solving social problems to farming. Just cool technology. I love that answer. So let's now shift to, what is one thing that you thought kids would think is innovative? I'm always interested to hear what adults think kids think.
Yeah, and Bobby Joe, you'll have to share more at the end about your Nearpod when you're kind of showing people how to use it and all the cool free resources it offers.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to write in full sentences.
No.
You've got the limited time.
Yeah, and if you end up playing with Nearpod yourself, you'll find like, how much time should I give people? Is it too fast? Is it not enough? All right, so some things are coming in. I think they would, this one, I think they would like computer animation. Another one, Nemo, of course. Music and dance. So I'm just going to show these as I kind of talk. What's really interesting is that a lot of adults think, yeah, like they would think, Facebook is cool, Finding Nemo, and how do you make animation? But really, kids were most interested in the lettuce bot. So someone put that on there. This person did. And it's because if you think about it, our students grew up with technology, right? They didn't live in a place in the 90s when you didn't have a phone, which is now turned into a small computer that you walk around with. So those things are just in their vocabulary already, in their experience. But what kids are starting to be drawn to now is, how do we use this technology to solve other problems in the world? Which is a really cool way to start to talk about careers in a lot of different ways, not just computing. This is still me, right, Jane? Sorry. Yes. So the first time I was invited to a session for Counselors for Computing, I just, I trusted that my teacher who told me to go was smart and it was something I should do, but I didn't really see where it intersected a whole lot. And this is a really great example. So as you start to feel more comfortable with this and advocate, I want you just to remember that our ASCA standards have places that allow for us to be advocates and allow for us to insert ourselves into spaces that are not very comfortable. So I like to just keep these mindsets in our back pocket, just in case anyone is ever like, well, why are you at this meeting? Why are you interested in this? And you can always refer back to our standards.
Can you go back one?
I froze.
One more.
Sorry, guys.
Nope,
I was
we're good.
clicking through and my screen froze, so I didn't think it was moving.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, here we go. Sorry.
Yeah, so thinking kind of more of why computer science and why counselors can really be advocates for it. And that really comes down to this idea of computational thinking. When we think of computer science, I know we think of coding, programming, just these long lists of code, but what computer science is teaching is a lot more than that. It's teaching computational thinking. And we break that down into 5 subcategories. So the first one is decomposition. So taking a problem and breaking it down into smaller parts. And that skill is so useful in computer science, but it can also be useful in everyday lives as well as other subjects in school. So think about planning a report or planning a trip, breaking it down of, well, where are we going? Well, where are we going to stay? Well, what's our budget? What are we going to do? Breaking stuff down into smaller parts. Or think about writing a big report and breaking those down into, well, what's my intro going to be? What do I really want to tackle in the middle? Next is pattern recognition. So identifying similarities and trends. This is very popular when we're coding, but it can also be used in other parts of our lives, like learning the times table, seeing those trends when you're learning that. Next is abstraction. So targeting what's important and setting aside unnecessary details. So in code, there's sometimes these things that are so unnecessary. And we can also think about that in like math. Sometimes I remember in elementary school, I'd be given a word problem and 2 of the sentences had all this super helpful information, and there'd be 1 sentence thrown in there random that had completely unnecessary details. And we had to use that idea of abstraction to target what's actually important in this problem and what is an unnecessary detail. So that can really be used in multiple scenarios. Number 4 is algorithm design. So creating step-by-step set of instructions. When we write code in computer science or program something, it's very, very specific step-by-step sets of instructions. And we can see this in our everyday lives too, when we're writing down a recipe, getting directions from one class to another. So as you can see, kind of as we're going along, a lot of these can be used not only in computer science, but in other areas of our lives, which brings us to our last one, which is debugging. And that's what really a reflection piece. So reflecting on what worked well and what steps need to be revisited and refined. I'm actually taking a web design course right now, and we're writing a code, we're writing a website, and my code just wasn't working right. So I had to keep going through and reflecting on what is right and looking for those mistakes or things like that are missing within my code. So that reflection piece is really, really important for computational thinking. So I think really what I'm trying to get at is computational thinking, when we learn that in our computer science courses, it's not only teaching us computer science, but it's really teaching us these other skills that we can apply to our everyday lives.
And you guys see your stand.
Moving on. So the World Economic Forum is a website that educators, counselors, anyone can really go to and look at the different careers that are going to be available and what the skills are that these companies are going to be looking for. So looking ahead for 2022, some of the trending skills is analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, creativity, technology design, that critical thinking and analysis, complex problem solving, and all of those different types of things, which is really interesting and good for students to understand what their employers in their future are going to be looking for. So moving on to kind of why expanding access to computer science matters and is important. So computing jobs are now the =1 source of new wages in America. So it is one of the highest increasing jobs within our nation. And these jobs are in every industry, in every state, and they're projected to grow at twice the rate of all other jobs. So just looking at this graph, you can see that the computing job is 16.3%, which is greater than any other career around there. So moving on to Bobby Joe.
Yeah, so a lot of times we think that we have a problem with undersourcing our STEM careers and with diversifying STEM careers, but it's really much bigger than that, or really actually smaller than that. So Jane, can you go to next slide?
Yes.
Awesome. So it's really a computer science problem, right? As we saw on the previous slide, or previous 2 slides, engineering wasn't growing as fast, or, the other STEM fields, but computer science is. And so computer science is 67% of all new STEM jobs, but we only have 10% of graduates that are in computer science. So this is where we fall into a problem in our country where we're under preparing for the fields that we need to fill, and then those jobs end up in other parts of the world, right? So not only diversifying, but just straight out, how do we feed people into a career field that has a high need right now? This is my favorite slide. I always have to ask to present this one. But what's interesting here is you'll see at the bottom, these are different fields, right? So we've got engineering, biomedical sciences, computer science, information tech, math, physical sciences, and social sciences, right? So the red represent associate degrees, the teal represent bachelor's degrees, master's is orange, and PhDs are purple, and then in the green are the annual jobs, and this is projected between 2016 and 2026. And so you can see engineering is kind of right on target, right? We're getting people ready at the bachelor's level at just under the amount of jobs that are available. The biggest discrepancy is in the social sciences, right? So in what I do, right? And if you're a school counselor in an area that is, that we are saturated, you know that finding a job can be difficult, right? So we often send students to college to get degrees in things like English and sociology, I don't know, poetry, I don't know, some of the social sciences. But there's not a lot of jobs, right? So they end up leaving college with this debt that they need to figure out how to pay back without viable job opportunities. But notice in that third column, computer science, information tech, even though we're getting better and better at preparing students in these fields, we're still not anywhere near to where we need to be with getting more people into the job field, right? So there's that huge discrepancy in jobs and readiness. One last thing I just want to have you guys look at, the polka dots in the teal represent women, and then the solid are men. So you will see engineering, we're undersourcing women. We are way undersourcing women in computer science. And then in the social sciences, we're right about even. So that to me also is a question mark of, am I preparing women to be able to make enough money to sustain their lifestyle or to even pay back their student loans, right? And so when we talk about equity among race, gender, sexuality, we really have to think about, who are we servicing and where are they going? All right, Jane, you're up.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a fun little pop quiz, and it's just gonna kind of get us thinking about access for women. And yeah, so You guys will have a little pop quiz, and it's 5 questions, so y'all can just take your time and start on that.
Jan, I feel like in a next session, we need to have some background music.
Yeah. Some Jeopardy, like, do.
Right? We're usually so good with background music in person. We got to get on that. So I think this is Michelle Wilson. She's not seeing the quiz. On nearpod.com, if you go to that website and then enter in the code that's in the corner, the BL. Oh, there you go. You're going to put the link in.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat.
So if you follow this link, you'll be able to see the Nearpod presentation on your screen. Oh, Christina. They're tricky questions.
Yeah, that's the point. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and start just kind of discussing them. It looks like a lot of people are close to done. So we're looking at the first one. So what percentage of computer science bachelor degree recipients were women in 1985? So the answer for that one was 37%. Is there any way I can see?
I think when you click on the question, it's green.
Well, I wanted to see like how many percent people got that correct or incorrect, but that's okay. And then that kind of flashed forwards to what percentage of computer science bachelor degree recipients were women in 2017, and that answer was 19%. So we can see that there was kind of a large decrease from 1985 to 2017. So then the next one was, what percentage of computing workforce identified as Hispanic women in 2018? And honestly, none of the answers are good, but it is actually the lowest of all 4 answers, which just kind of shows how not only are women not really represented within computing workforce, but especially there's not a lot of diversity within the computing workforce. And I mean, 2018, that really wasn't that long ago. So then moving on to what percentage of computing workforce identified as African American women in 2018, and that was only 1% higher than Hispanic women. So again, just kind of proving the point that the number of women is low, but also the number of diversity within computing is low. And then more girls are taking the APCS exam. In 2015, 10,778 young women took the exam. How many do you think took it in 2018? And that was a large jump up to 38,000. So that really shows some positivity that we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's important to note also that between 2015 and 2018, when those numbers were taken, there was a new APCS exam, which was the highest launch or the largest launch of an AP exam in College Board history. And it really is a class that is, it's reachable. You know, it's not as much math as everyone thinks it is. It's not scary. So why does that matter, right? Why do we care so much about making sure women are in this workforce and that we're hitting those intersectionalities and we have people of different races and backgrounds? And really, it comes down to, it enhances innovation, right? So the more differences that are in the room, the more problems we can solve. It obviously, we want to hire more qualified workforce. It promotes equity, right? Not just in those specific companies, but also in the products that those companies are designing, right? So if we think about like, why would Snapchat care about having people of color on their workforce? Well, they can market to more people and have a larger base, right? So however horrible that may sound, but it really does matter on the bottom line, for companies. Expanding my workforce is also going to help me make more money and be more reachable. I love these two pictures. So these are both hackathons. One is from 2017, one is from 2018. You might have to get a little close to your computer. I want you to just take a minute, look at those pictures. And our next fun little interactive piece is I just want to know, what do you notice about those pictures? What stands out to you? Thanks, Jane. All right, let's head over to that quiz. So that quiz is just another opportunity for you guys to, put in, what do you notice? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of what you guys are saying. There's, that's an interesting one, Jane. Asian ethnicity in one and just pretty much nothing else in the other. Like no other ethnicities in that one picture. And I think that one picture you're talking about there was one female in the front. Notice they put her in the front too.
There's the two.
There's
they're
two
right
females.
In front. Yeah.
Two. Yeah. Yeah. Another interesting thing is the amount of money that these participants won, right? So when we talk about equity and access, and, in 2018, someone in that group won $100,000 and only, one or two small portions of our population are represented there. Could you imagine what could happen if, one of my students from Middletown High, living in an area that struggles economically, won $100,000? What would that do for their family, right? So that's another reason why it's really important. It's not just about opportunity. This is real money for students.
Just before I move on, I know that it is getting close to the end of the time that we devoted to this meeting, so I totally understand if you have to hop off. But we will take the first video and edit it, and we'll take the second half and put them together and send them out to you. So if you do have to hop off, we will send you a video of the last half. But yeah, moving on. So from code.org, they have a lot of great fact sheets and data that both educators and counselors can use. So something that's really exciting is that CS can actually count for graduation in 48 of the 50 states plus Washington, D.C. And this is up from, there were only 12 states in 2013. So the different shades of purple count for different things. So the darker colors is computer science counts statewide. The lighter purple, the medium, is computer science can count, but the schools kind of decide. And then the lightest is computer science as an elective. So this next little activity, if you just kind of watch what I'm doing on the screen, we can show you how to find the fact sheet for your state. So you'll actually just go to code.org, and then they have a little thing up at the top that's just stats for statistics. And if you scroll down, you'll see the United States, and then you can click on your state. So I'm from Indiana, so I'm just going to click on that one. So a few things it tells you just briefly at the beginning is how many open computing jobs there are, and about how many computer science graduates, which we can see the number of jobs is much higher than the actual number of graduates we have. Then you can learn more about, is there dedicated state funding? Are all high schools required? Are there curriculum standards? And then moving on to if there's AP stats available. And then if you click the view state fact sheet, you'll get the really detailed version that talks a little bit more with percentages and really just gives you that data you may need to better understand where computer science is at within your state. So that's a really great resource that code.org offers. So I'm passing it off to Bobby Jo.
Sorry, I was like clicking off from the presentation. Managing a couple screens, guys. So why us, right? Why school counselors? And these are the 4 big things that when women were surveyed, that they said helped in their decision in pursuing computer science and staying in it. And so that was encouragement, career perception, meaning that they could actually see themselves there, self-perception, that they had the confidence to do it, right? And that stick through it. And then academic exposure. And so school counselors in the room, I'm sure that you know, we have a part in all of this, right? We are cheerleading our students all of the time. We're lifting them up. We're exposing them to new academics. I don't know how many times I've been in a session with a student and we're picking classes and there's that like one spot that they don't know what to do with. And then, you know, it's our job to say, well, we think you might like this, right? And so I almost always, computer science, give it a try. Even if everything else I have is art, hey, try computer science. But yeah, so this is why us, you know, like I'm not, sometimes I feel like a fraud, to be honest. I'm not great with computers. Thank God Jane is managing the Zoom. If that happened and I was managing it, it probably would have been worse. But at the same time, I have the ability to encourage students to get into these fields. Next one. And so this encouragement goes back to our ASCA standards, right? So it's always important that we are acting as change agents and that we're using our privilege and our access to higher level educational professionals that are making decisions to make sure that our students have the best learning opportunities, are ready for the world. And my favorite line in here is school counselors are social justice advocates, and they support students from all backgrounds and circumstances. And I really see our position here in being able to talk about the opportunities in computer science as social justice work, because it does help students not just with a career path that is viable, but also a career path that could potentially earn them some real life-changing money, right? Like it's not just about going to college anymore. You know, we're talking more about trades. We're talking more about pursuing a purpose and not just what all of the other high school kids do on TV is go to college and have an experience, right? College is too dang expensive for an experience. Yeah, next one. So this is, you know, some more of our ASCA mindsets that align with this kind of work. So I think it's important for us to you guys can read, I'm not going to read them to you, but it's important for us to be able to go back to these ASCA standards. And as we start to insert ourselves into different parts of our school community, sometimes you might be met with, well, what are you doing here? This isn't your space. And we can go back to our standards and say, yeah, it is. And this is how, and this is, you know, what supports my work here. Hopefully you guys don't work in situations like that, but I have heard some stories where, you know, counselors start to do this work and make some noise, and they're met with some, you know, some pushback. But it's always nice to go back to these standards to say, yes, it does in fact fit. So our self-perception, again, we talked about this earlier. One thing that's really interesting in these stats here are that boys receive more encouragement from girls, from their teachers at 1.5% more times, their parents, and the media, right? And so they're just not, girls are not getting the same push from everybody around them that they belong in these spaces. And also, let me correct myself. I didn't read that slide. I do this every time I present this slide. When girls receive encouragement from teachers, parents, and media, they're more likely to act on these things. That's what that 1.5, 1.7, and 2%, and 2 times more, right? So if a teacher tells a young woman, we think this would be a great field for you, or you're really good at this, they're more likely to continue with it. Another fun, interesting fact about girls are less likely to raise their hand and answer questions unless they know they're right. Boys are more likely to raise their hand and answer a question if they only kind of think they're right? So that goes back to that self-perception. Girls, for some reason, we are wired where like we can't say something unless we know it's right. Like we're almost not allowed to play and make a mistake in our head. Whereas boys, they'll, whoop, I think it's this. And then when the teacher says, no, it's not, they don't have any feelings about it. Well, some might, right? But this is a generalization based on research. But I think that's an important thing to know about girls. They need the extra push. So career perception, another place where we can come in, you know, why would I do this? How does this connect with my purpose and my mission? Earlier in our presentation today, we talked a lot about how computer science connects to all other job fields. And I think that's important for young people to know, is that you can be really interested in criminal justice and also study computer science and use that as, you know, to create simulations and forensics. You can absolutely love fashion and use computer science as a way to expand access to your fashion line or whatever it is, right? One thing on this slide that I just want to touch on, especially for high school students, and I would even say high school students like juniors, seniors, is instead of asking them, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? Ask them what problems do they want to solve. The reality is that students are going to be in jobs that don't exist today, right? Even just 5 years from now, they're going to be applying to jobs that don't exist, but they came about because someone decided to solve a problem. And I have found that that's increased the depth of the conversations I have when I'm career counseling. And I'm not trying to pigeonhole students into an idea of what they think they know. Last year, I worked at an engineering-themed high school, and all of those students knew about biomedical engineers and chemical engineers and all these different engineers. And now I work at a big public high school, and a lot of my students don't even know that engineers, like what engineers are, right? And so that all has to do with access. So when I shift and ask them what problems they want to solve, and I have the information because I'm an expert, I can help guide them. That was a really long talk on that slide. Let's go next. Sorry. So basically this goes back to technology is literally in every field, and we should be thinking about students in computer science classes as another tool to make their lives better and their resume stronger. Just like a couple years ago, we wanted everyone to learn Spanish. Now we want everyone to learn how to speak computer science. In a lot of states, well, I don't know about a lot of states, but in some states, it can count as a foreign language because it is another language, right? It's using problem solving in a different way, in a different language. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'd like to kind of just briefly share with you what some of the great NCWIT resources are for you. And CS for Indiana has put together a little thing on their webpage to kind of put it all in one spot. So first is the Aspirations in Computing Award. So if you go to the CS for Indiana website and look at this, you'll learn more about the award that NCWIT offers to both young high school students that are women, and then also educators that are really supporting the cause that NCWIT is really working towards. And this usually can come with a monetary prize. So if you have some young women at your school that are really into the computer science and are looking for a scholarship or something like that, this could be a great option. NCWIT also has Technolochicas, which it consists of posters and videos that really speak to young Latinas and their families to just raise awareness for them about the opportunities of technology careers. Now, FabFems is one of the great resources that you guys could actually take advantage of now. So FabFems is a website that's been put together where you can find a female STEM role model within your community. The great part about going online is that they technically don't have to be in your community. They could be willing to be an online role model. So you can look at keywords, countries, city, state, to find these awesome STEM role models that are interested in potentially doing an after-school visit or just being an online role model. And if you click on them, it'll tell you specifically their type of work. So this lady is a structural engineer. This is where she works at New Tech Design, and then a little biography. So this is a great option if you guys are looking for someone to kind of come and talk to the women and students within your school about computer science and STEM. And then lastly, C4C offers a lot of great resources as well. We offer a lot of free posters, so talking about college pathways to IT and computing careers, different information sheets, professional development guides, lesson plans for counselors, which is really great. So if you visit this website, you can request these free resources, which is really awesome.
Real quick, I often use some of those free resources when I'm talking to families, because sometimes I'm talking to families that just don't fully understand why their student would want to start in the military and go computer science. So I might pull that up and give them some of that reading material. I have printed a lot of this information and just kind of have it around my office. Sometimes students and parents just thumb through it while they're waiting for me or while we're talking and they're a little nervous. It's been really great, and we can't say enough, like, this stuff is free. The woman who runs NCWIT, right, the director, she really believes that our information should never be solely held by us. You can find just about everything you've seen here on our website. Sorry, Jane.
No. And I know some of you were asking in the chat about Nearpod and kind of why we're using it and what it has to offer. So you can join Nearpod for free as a teacher, and then you can navigate to the Nearpod lesson library. And within this, you can obviously limit your search by subjects, grades, resource type. The majority of the resources in the Nearpod library are free. There are some that people have published that you may have to pay 99 cents, $1 for. But here, like if I look at careers, I'm thinking about a counselor, career exploration. So here we can see that Nearpod College and Career Exploration has put together lessons. This one's for K through 2. This is 6 through 8, 9 through 12, 3 through 5 is down here. And you can click on these and you can actually download and use these different presentations with your students. So this is a preview of the K through 2 one. And you can add these to your library and use these when you're talking with your students. And you can also, if you have created a presentation, can publish it for free for other instructors, educators, counselors to use as well, which is really cool. And there are some specific to tech and computer science as well, which is really awesome to see.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has started to move towards an online format to deliver our school counseling lessons. I have, and we publish them every Friday, and we're just not getting as many hits. So this Friday, I'm going to give Nearpod a try and see if I can get some more hits live and interactive as opposed to videos and posting. COVID has definitely turned our whole world upside down, and we're having to learn really quickly. And I'm just going to play with it on Friday and see what happens. I encourage you to do the same. Maybe reach out to me and let me know how it went. Let me know if you found any more tricks that I didn't know about yet.
Yeah, I agree. Playing around with Nearpod and seeing all of the interactivity that you can add to your lessons is so important, especially because we are not in person and don't get that personal interaction. So that is the end of our presentation. We would love to answer any questions you all have. Again, I want to apologize. I definitely learned something today and how to not have that happen again. But yeah, we'd love to answer any questions you guys might have. And if you don't feel comfortable saying it out loud, you're more than welcome to put it in the chat.
So I guess if we don't have any questions, I'm going to stick my email in the chat. If something comes up after you leave or you're playing with any of the tools we've given you today or have more questions or just want to have more conversation, feel free to reach out to me. That's my personal email. And Jane as well.
Yep.
I believe you already have her email through other emails.
I'll send out a recap email with the recording that's been edited. And I can include both Bobby Joe and I's email, and we would love to help in any way possible, for sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us and hanging in there. And yeah, so if we don't have any questions, I will say goodbye.
Thank you guys. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much.